All right, we're taking a closer look at the NFL Combine today with our SEC insider, Matt Zenitz. And with the Combine right around the corner, March 1st through 4th in Indianapolis, a lot of buzz surrounding several Alabama guys. Of the 11 that are going to the NFL Combine, of course, you've got Quinnen Williams, you've got Josh Jacobs, you've got Jonah Williams really at the top of the big board when you kind of talk to some of these guys like Mel Kiper. Of those three guys, who is really creating a lot of buzz and why?
I mean, Quinnen's an obvious one. Quinnen is very much in the conversation to be a top 3 draft pick, maybe the top defensive lineman selected in this year's draft. But for this, I'll go with actually one of the running backs. So Josh Jacobs is somebody who seems like the buzz has just continued to build throughout the course of the early part of this pre-draft process. And Josh is somebody who, I mean, scouts seem to really love, and similar to what I was just saying with Quinnen. So Quinnen has a chance to be the first defensive lineman selected. I would say the same thing for Josh as far as his position group, that Josh has a real opportunity to be the first running back off the board. Has himself in a position right now where not only could that be the case, but seems like he has a real chance to maybe go as early as the top 15 picks and maybe even the top 10 of this year's draft. And
when you look at him and compare him to Damian Harris, what makes Josh Jacobs different or versatile or more of a dynamic running back in terms of how he could translate in the NFL?
Well, both are good players, and Damian's going to get drafted, I think, at some point during the course of the early rounds, also maybe in that third round range. But with Josh just has some special characteristics, and when healthy this year, didn't have the injury issues that he had in 2017, was really able to showcase some of the talent that he has, to the point that, I mean, there's at least one scout that I talked to that actually compared Josh Sutton to Marshawn Lynch, who's obviously who'd been a good player in the NFL for a long time, and just that angry, nasty style as a runner, violent as a runner, while at the same time having some big play ability and some versatility to go along with that. I just know scouts are really high on Josh.
And when you look at the 11 guys from Alabama heading to the NFL Combine, who would you say out of those 11 guys really has the most to prove?
I would start with 2 defensive backs. So you have Savion Smith, who obviously the year didn't end very well for him. Went out like he did in the national championship game and gave up the big touchdown and left the game at that point, and just didn't finish out the year like I'm sure he would have liked to. Had some good film earlier in the season, though, and it seems like he still has a chance to go at some point, maybe during the middle rounds, somewhere in that range. But if he can go out and test out well at the Combine, do well with the interviews and all of that, could help himself. But I would say, especially considering how he finished out the year, that it would be very important for him to have a good showing and just a good overall week in Indy. And then the other defensive back that I was talking about be Deontay Thompson. So Deontay, a first-team All-American, did a lot of good stuff for Alabama this year in his first year as a full-time starter, but at the same time, it was inconsistent a little bit, and it seems like the feeling in the scouting world is that the tape the second half of the year wasn't as good as the tape the first half of the year. And I know one of the big concerns with Deontay NFL-wise is the fact that played the year probably somewhere in the weight range of 178 to 181, 182, and most NFL safeties are a lot bigger than 178 to 181, 182. So a big focus for Deontay during the course of this process has been getting bigger, getting stronger, while at the same time being able to maintain speed to be able to run well, even at that heavier weight. And from what I've heard, it seems like Deontay's been able to put on 15 pounds during the course of the last month or so of training. So it seems like he should go to Indy and be able to weigh in somewhere in the range of 190, 195, maybe even a little bit closer to 200 than that. And it seems like he's been running well even at that heavier weight, to the point that it's possible that he could go out there and run a mid-high 4.5, even at close to 200 pounds, which if he's able to do that, that would definitely help him.
Okay, my last question for you, Matt, is biggest surprise out of the 11 guys going for Alabama. Who do you think will be the biggest surprise for them in terms of where their draft stock is now and where they could really perform well at the NFL Combine?
So I'll start with one that you already referenced. So you mentioned Damian Harris, and we're not going to give all the love to Josh Jacobs as far as the running back, so we'll give some love to the other running back also. I think people will be surprised when they see Damian test out. I think Damian's a better athlete than he probably gets credit for, and than people probably realize. So Damian's run in the low 4.5 range at Alabama. from what I remember a couple years ago at their spring testing, had one of the top vertical jumps on the team at that point. I would think that he would go out in Indy and have vertical jump at the very least in the mid-30s, which would be a solid number for him. And I just think overall that he will look better as far as those drills and just athletically than maybe people were expecting. And then another one, if he is able to test out, would be Christian Miller. So Christian's coming off the hamstring injury that he suffered during the postseason, and it seems like it's iffy right now whether he'll be able to test out in Indy, but he's another one that if he is able to get out there, I think people would be surprised with what he looks like, because Christian is just, I mean, he's a freak of an athlete. He's a 4'6" type guy at linebacker at 240 pounds. I mean, he had one of the top vertical jumps on the team, even being in that 240-pound range. And if he is able to go out there and test out, I think people would be very impressed and maybe even surprised with just how good he looks athletically.
All right, all great notes here from Matt Zenitz. You can follow him on Twitter at mzenitz. So I got that right, mzenitz. Yep. And you can follow us for all your Alabama Crimson Tide updates on AL.com.